Hello friends, my name is Money and today I have a review for you of Slammed by Colleen Hoover. If you recall, I recently asked for suggestions for books you all thought I should read and live tweet. The point wasn't really to make me read bad books, but to read books that you all thought I would have feelings on. The lovely Trina over at Between Chapters recently read and reviewed Slammed by Colleen Hoover, and she thought that I should do the same. You can check out my real-time thoughts over on Twitter with the hashtag SlamSnark. Before I dive into specifics here, the kind that come with spoilers, here's the long and the short of it. Number 1, this book suffers because of the juvenile writing style and voice. Number 2, Hoover relies on a string of unlikely events and some tragedy porn in order to sell us on this high-stakes relationship. Number 3, the insta-love makes it really hard to buy into the actions of the main characters and the overwrought tension and melodramatics. And number 4, the relationship between Lake, the main character, and her love interest Will, despite the best efforts of Colleen Hoover, got pretty icky at times. I will now talk about these 4 points with more details and some plot-specific things, so if you haven't read this, beware. Number 1, the main crime that this book commits is just being overly juvenile and trying to pitch itself as not. The main character is 18 and the love interest is 21, so immediately the new adult label gets slapped on when no. Not only is all of the action basically happening in high school, but the writing is just so incredibly juvenile. It's cheesy and simplistic and the kind of thing that's easily consumed but doesn't have any nutritional value. I always pick out some examples of really awful lines, and here's the one I have for Slam. The jackets are nowhere to be found. Septembers in Texas rarely call for jackets. I grab the keys and decide I'll have to make a mad dash to the Jeep. I open the front door and some sort of white substance is all over the yard. It takes me a second to realize what it is. Snow? Yes, damn it. Snow, why are you so confused? You shouldn't be this confused. The prose style is basically all, I did this, and then I did this. Then I did some other things. Here's another example. I get out of the shower and wrap myself in a towel, flipping my hair forward as I brush it out and blow dry it. When it's dry, I point the blow dryer at the fogged up mirror, forming a clear circular area so I can apply a little makeup. I notice my tan has started to fade. There won't be much lying out here, so I might as well get used to a slightly paler complexion. I brush my hair and pull it back into a ponytail and put on some lip gloss and mascara. I forego the blush, since there no longer seems to be a need for it. Between the weather and my brief encounters with Will, my cheeks seem to stay red. And what was the point of that? Absolutely nothing. Let me help the author. I take a shower and get ready so I can go outside and have another scene with Will. Boom. Lake acts like less than an 18-year-old. There are so many times that she's bratting away, and yes, I use brat as a verb, or showing a lack of emotional maturity, or laughing and joking at inappropriate times. All in a book that's like, but she can be with a 21-year-old man. I mean, maybe some 18-year-olds can, but girl, Lake, keep growing up. Number 2, this book relies on a string of unlikely events and a bunch of tragedy porn. And I mean, fiction is fiction and sometimes it's sensational, but there has to be a certain level of storytelling and quality of writing for an author to be able to pull this off. This book was kind of a silly romp, and then all of a sudden it would just introduce these huge themes or this tragic event, and it was just like, what? I found myself cracking up because every time Will, the main love interest, did something douche canoe-y, another piece of his tragedy was revealed. So the first time he was like, I can't be with you, and Lake was like, wah, you're the worst. He was like, no, you don't understand. Both my parents died and I'm the sole caretaker of my brother. Aw, poor douche canoe. The next time he did something awful, someone was randomly on hand to tell Lake no, he lost his football scholarship and his hot girlfriend when he had to come home. Aw. The next time he did something really awful and manipulative, he upped the ante. He was like, no, my little brother was actually involved in the car accident. He was a sole survivor, and I decided I didn't want to be the guardian, but then I decided that I did want to be the guardian, and so on and so on. But basically it was clear that those elements were there to be all, but Will has a tragic past. Pay no attention to the girl's relationship behind the curtain. Number 3, this was insta-love, plain and simple. Some people might be out there like, yep, I need it. I want my characters to fall in love the day before they actually meet. Thank you. Okay, this book is good for that. I just found it a bit unbelievable in the grand scheme of things. I mean, these two were thinking about sacrificing careers and educational paths after being together for one date. We literally got 3 chapters of them meeting and being together, and then the rest was them being like, but we can't, and that just seemed really imbalanced to me. Number 4, the author tried really hard to make this an okay student-teacher relationship. They are both adults over the legal age limit. Now, I've taken on this topic a number of times because of Ezra and Arya from Pretty Little Liars, who are one of my least favorite couples of ever. There's a lot that can be said about age, how it's just a number, and adulthood is different for different peoples, and maturity happens to different people at different places in their life. This is all stuff that we could talk about, but it's not really applicable here. The reason this is icky to me has nothing to do with their age. So let's move on. The problem with student-teacher relationships is that they are an abuse of power. We have a social contract with our teachers and caretakers. We entrust them to educate and take care of our children, and in turn we basically teach our children to respect and obey these authority figures. When you start introducing a love element into that dynamic, it's icky. It's a power imbalance. Will gives Lake and her friend detention so he can talk to them in his area on his terms and basically have them as a captive audience. He uses his power as a teacher to get Lake into a position where he wants her. Nope. We see this again when Lake gets angry at Will and uses the classroom environment to recite an angry poem at him. They've now used this learning environment and turned it into their little relationship forum. Nope. We see this again when Lake tells us over and over again that Will doesn't look at or acknowledge her at all in the classroom. He won't make eye contact with her even though he's super relaxed and attentive to the other students. Again, he's taking advantage of his position at the front of a classroom to make this young lady feel like crap. Nope. The worst thing is later on in the story when Lake is sexually assaulted, because of course she is. As the guy is force kissing Lake, Will shows up and pulls the guy, also one of his students, off of Lake and starts punching him repeatedly. Lake later tells the authorities that that guy was forcing himself on her, and Will is reprimanded but otherwise okay. Then Will admits to Lake that he didn't know she was being sexually assaulted. He grabbed this other student away from Lake and started punching him repeatedly, basically just because he saw them kissing. Nope. Done. Over. Finished. No. For the most part, this was just kind of cheesy, not good. The kind of stuff you read fast and don't really notice because you just kind of blah, blah, blah right through it. It clearly has some angry making moments though, which is what convinced me to give it 1 star instead of 2. When I finished it, I found out it was the first in the series, so Trina, to you I say thank you so much for the recommendation, and I'll read the next books if you do. Don't forget to leave me some books to add to my subscriber recommended jar. If you read Slammed, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments. I will also, of course, link Trina's review where she brings up a lot of these topics as well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Probably my favorite worst line in this whole thing though was Will slams poems, I slam doors. It's so good. It's so good. I wish this were a thing I could use in my real life.